Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with the leader of the Kansas City jazz outfit known as the Matt Cook Collective, Joel Gordon. Over the course of our interview, we discussed how this very cool group comes together several times a year during their breaks from colleges across the country to play their blend of jazz and to educate students. They are an evolved incarnation of what happens with talent, youth, and a pure desire to come out for the good of jazz. They have a host of Winter 2015 shows in KC, and they talk to Neon Jazz about those shows, their history as a band, and what the future may hold. These are some cool cats. Please dig this interview, my friends.
Hey, thanks for taking a little time out. I'm looking forward to talking with you and getting the word out about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start off here. I know there's a lot of things that are going on. You got, dates coming up here at the Uptown Arts Bar, Record Bar, Homer's Coffee. You got a GoFundMe page. But I want to very simply ask you, kind of as an overview, what's been going on with all of you guys lately?
Cool. So the Matt Cook Collective is guys who, as it started, are all from kind of the Northland, Kansas City area, and just started playing some gigs and taking some jobs, and we're all kind of friends or met through high school. And over the past couple of years, everybody's gone to college and everything, so the guitar player goes to Miami and other guys are different places and everything. So we really only get together over summers and then winter time when everybody's home for a few weeks, and then we kind of go our separate ways again. So everybody spends, the whole semester writing all this new music, and we get together and have a rehearsal and read it all down, and then it's good to go. Let's take it and play it someplace, But we are really into sharing our music with other people just in different capacities. We really like playing out places and different venues and stuff, but we also are way into sharing music with younger music students. And so we are jazz stewards. We are jazz ambassadors, if you will. And a couple years ago started trying to really get into the schools, the local schools in Kansas City, and now with our trip up in Iowa as well. And really just taking, what we've learned and what's been impressed upon us and sharing it with kids, be them really interested in jazz or some that are just kind of getting into jazz. We're really trying to take jazz to make it more accessible and to make it more relevant and to make it really more exciting. It's something that students, say, hey, I could do that, or hey, that's pretty cool. How do you do that? And really sharing what has been shared with us. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So you're just sending that proverbial jazz torch around. And, I love the name Collective. It's kind of like the Matt Cook organization. When you do Collective, you're like all-encompassing. You're doing education, you're playing, you're doing it. So it's a great name. And, so let me get an idea. You made it very clear what you guys are doing and what's going on, but specifically the GoFundMe campaign, is that just for your tour?
Yeah, it's for the tour. That allots us the money to travel. So we're starting in Kansas City and then kind of working our way up north to Des Moines and Iowa City, and then we'll end up back in Kirksville, where I live, where Truman State is, and play a gig that night too. So that helps fund the gas to get to all these gigs as well as the schools. All these, we're doing, I think we have 8 booked, and we're working on 2 more school clinics. So that helps, just fund those and traveling from all these different schools, and just, making it accessible for us to be there and play.
Right on. The whole Miles Davis playbook was to take jazz and kind of evolve it into things like fusion and, R&B and even hip hop. And it sounds like that's what you guys have a passion for, is you have a reverence for the jazz, but you're also going towards the fusion and hip hop and evolved jazz sound. Is that kind of what you guys are going for?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do your, private standards gigs all the time, on the weekends, and we play stuff that's, almost 100 years old. And as well, we take stuff that has, never even thought about being jazz and kind of give it an improvisational feel or a swing feel, as well as, write our own music that is kind of in the jazz blend, as well as, borrow music, if you will, from other people who are musicians that we like. So it's really coming from all over. Nothing that we play really the same, which is what makes it exciting to play a set that has something that is from thousands of miles away, something that was written by somebody in the band, and then something that I listened to on a record last week, and it's all in the same place, which is what makes it really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of gigs, over this coming holiday season, you're going to have some choice gigs around KC. The 16th, you're going to be at the Uptown Arts Bar. The 17th, the Record Bar, which should be, that's a well-established joint. And then on the 19th, you'll be at Homer's Coffee. Talk to me a little bit about how this came around. I know you guys are kind of doing this on break, but how did all these shows kind of click together for you?
Sure. So I go to school up at Truman, and my good friend Nate is from the Des Moines area. And the Matt Cook Collective started a 3 years ago, but I was talking to Nate, and I was like, hey, man, we should do this deal where we get some of your guys from Iowa, and we take this band that I have, and we really kind of do the road thing. And so Nate went to high school with a guy, Derek, who's at North Texas now, a trombone player. And so the two of them are joining us from Des Moines to make this kind of super sextet, if you will. And so we're looking to stay a few days in Kansas City, and we'll be up in St. Joe for a place as well that Friday night. And then we'll travel up, play a gig in Des Moines, play a gig in Iowa City, and then come back down and play a gig in Kirksville as well the next week. And so it's really just kind of touching base, with where we're all from. We're all playing at our own high school, middle schools, and get to go back and see old teachers and old mentors, as well as, just kind of say, hey, I was to the students, I was in your place, 5-10 years ago, and this is where music has taken me, and just to be able to share that with students.
Right on. The one thing that's really big with a collective band like yours is that there has to be very defined musical influences, specifically in jazz. What would you say the band, you guys get together, what albums, what musicians floor you and make you kind of emulate their sound, so to speak?
Sure. Well, when Matt and I started the band, one of the big reasons that I really like to work with Matt is he has very different tastes than me. And it's, just kind of what we're naturally drawn to. He grew up listening to a lot of hip hop and more kind of straightforward music, and I grew up listening to a lot of rock and roll, and then once we started getting the jazz in middle school and high school, we're really looking for avenues that we could, still play and listen to what we were accustomed to, as well as incorporating the jazz feel. And so, Matt brings in a lot of, like I said, the hip hop and kind of contemporary stuff, whereas I bring in more of the, rock and roll kind of alternative music. And then Matt Clinkenbeard, our guitar player, plays in country bands and everything in between, and so brings in that flair, as well as the bass player Nick plays in different folk groups and things like that. And so it's really it's hard to put your thumb on what our sound is like, or what the Matt Cook Collective sound is described as. So really it's, like you said, the collective idea that all is fair game, and we're really pushing the limits of what can this instrumentation do with music that, is jazz, or maybe not, maybe something completely different.
Absolutely. The interesting thing about Kansas City is that, as with, I think, a lot of music towns, things ebb and flow, and we're definitely going through kind of a renaissance with the jazz scene. Bobby Watson's brought in a lot of talent. There's a lot of really fresh talent that's out there, and every night this town is hopping. So you're a part of that, playing out there. What do you like best about the Kansas City jazz scene?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the main thing that is great in Kansas City is just the appreciation of the roots of the culture, and really historically what Kansas City has been. And people that play jazz in Kansas City are not ashamed of that, and are very proud of what jazz culture and blues culture even have been in the city. And the great thing about today is that, people are really excited about that, as well as excited about, bringing in new things. And I think it's, like you said, a really unique time in which we're getting, a lot of the old with the new. And it's not a clash as much as it is really a concoction, kind of this new, really living kind of organism that is evolving, and it's exciting. Every few months we kind of have a new thing, or we have this new band, or we have this new place, and it's always changing, but it's still the same appreciation and still kind of the same motives of sharing this music with people.
And the beauty of the history-rich jazz environment that we have here in Kansas City, obviously 18 and Vine, Paris to the Plains, we were probably the precursor to a lot of things before it exploded on 42nd Street, New York. When you think about the heyday of 18 and Vine and what was going on, the birth of Parker, swing, everything, what intrigues you the most about the history and the beginnings of jazz in Kansas City?
Sure. Well, back in the day, the Charlie Parker bebop era, bebop was really just kind of for the players at first. Nobody could dance to it. Nobody could keep up with it. A lot of guys couldn't cut it. And it was so on the cusp of just, being banned that all these people were so upset. This isn't swinging. This isn't music. This is something totally different. And I think that we still have that taste in our music where people say, hey, that's not really what the swing that we're used to, or that's not really the feel that we're used to, or the sound that we're used to. But it's really something that is special to us. And I think we're starting to cross into where people are starting to understand, okay, this is cool. This is hip. This is something that's kind of artistically new, and it's a new flavor and a new taste. And I think particularly in Kansas City, there are a lot of players and a lot of places that are starting to appreciate that music and starting to say, hey, this isn't what we're used to, or this isn't exactly like we've done it. But let's jump in and let's see if we can't make it work.
Yeah. The thing that was immediate from your description of the Matt Cook Collective up front was that you guys are a testament to a very good long-distance relationship that works. And you go around, you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with adults in clubs. Tell me a good story that you guys ran into. Maybe an anecdote, a kid came up to you or something. Do you have a funny story that you guys have relived and talked about as a band?
Yeah, there's one that we like to tell. There's a cool Matt Wilson arrangement of a Beyonce Knowles tune that we like to play. That was like, this I Was a Girl tune, If I Was a Girl, that was big when I was in high school. And so we show up at school and we're like, okay, yeah, this is this cool pop tune that we've done the transcription and the arrangement. And so we play the thing down and we're like, okay, yeah, like 10 points to whoever can name this tune. That nobody raises their hand and somebody like rattles something off. It wasn't even close. And so we still kind of laugh, at the awkwardness of just how much music has changed, since we were all in public school and 5-10 years later. But it's just so cool that, we can make things accessible to kids that never would have heard of Beyonce, who's a pop, sensation. But, it's still relevant in our lives and has, kind of a special place in our portfolio. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what does the future hold for you guys? When you graduate from school, you move on into a more of a full-time mode. What are you guys seeing as your collective? What do you guys want to do?
Yeah, I mean, the capacity of the band, really from here on out, whatever can happen. And we keep playing with different people, and it brings a different feel to the band, and playing at different places, which brings kind of different ideas to the band. And we're really just kind of looking forward to continue making music and continue, experimenting with the limits of what jazz and improvisation are and what we can bring to the table. So, we would love to record a record. We would love to take music to more places. We would love to keep writing music. But really, we're just open to where the music takes us. And we're excited about, the opportunities that may come.
So a more hyper-specific breakdown of that answer would be, is there an album on the horizon that would be worthy of us talking about that maybe people can get their hands on at some point?
It would probably be about a year or so before we actually get in the studio and kind of hash things out. But we would love to record an album someday. Are
you contemplating Kickstarter?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is kind of the tour that it's like, what's the next step? Like how far can we push it? And what are we really made of? Is this something that we really want to take to the next level?
Yeah, right on. So I have several more questions for you, and I've been asking generic to kind of encompass the collective, but since we're talking, we've kind of gotten nostalgic about bands and jazz history in Kansas City. If you could go back in time and see a gig anywhere, the Immaculate DeLorean on the curb, and you could punch the coordinates and go there and see it, where would you go and who would you see?
Oh, sure. Totally dig the Benny Moten band, which would be the precursor to the Count Basie band. This is back probably close to 100 years ago. The Moten swing, and just all the super laid back, Kansas City, even pre-Freddie Green rhythm section sound. And I think that's something that we really bring in our band, is just the swinging aspect that Kansas City has, whether we're playing straight ahead or whether we're playing something with a Latin field. It's still swinging, it's still grooving, and it still really has that flavor, that musicians have been doing for a long time.
Absolutely. So, final question here. A lot of people have a perception of who you all are as an organism, whether it's people that are going to come see you at the record bar on the 17th, and you get off stage and they formulated who you guys are. Your family has a perception of who you guys are. These kids that visit you. But you tell me, who do you think the Matt Cook Collective is?
Who is the Matt Cook Collective? I guess easier said than done kind of question, right?
Well, and it's almost one of those things where it's kind of nice to say, let's needle this down to a Twitter answer. So you really get to maximize the words and define who you guys are.
The Matt Cook Collective is an organization of people that really kind of thrive off each other, and just appreciate the differences and the uniqueness of everybody else in the group, and just try to learn as much and soak in as much from each other as we can.
Sweet. That's perfect. Hey, Joel, thanks again, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, well, Joe, thank you very much, and I really appreciate you doing what you do.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Joel for his contribution to the thriving Kansas City jazz scene and the entire band of the Matt Cook Collective. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com for all things neon jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.